Welcome back to BCHS TV. Again here at Bradley Central High School, talking about another facet of Bradley Central. I'm your host, Gary Ownbey, being joined today by our old-time friend, long-time friend, a guy that everybody around here knows, everybody in the whole community knows, in the whole area, I suppose, Mr. Turner Jackson, who's the AD. I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Turner.
Thank you, Gary. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. And the first thing we'd like to mention, too, though, is Turner recently lost his wife of many, many years, Liz Hannah Jackson. And everybody has sent condolences to you and Brittany and Lindsay and Rita and the whole family there. And everybody remember her as the bright, smiling face around here that was a major player in Barrett basketball, hit the game-winning shot against Warren County in '73 to win the state title there. But we all miss her around here. But I know a lot of folks have reached out to you there, Turner. But
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Let's talk about you, though. People who know you or have known you in the last 25, 30 years, always thought you're a Bradley guy. You went to Bradley. You did everything at Bradley. But you are not from Bradley. You're not even Tennessee, are you?
No, I feel like I'm from Bradley. I've been here 41 years. So 41. No, I'm from Alabama. I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama. Went to the largest high school in Alabama, which is now closed. It was a lot like Bradley, except that it was bigger. It was around 3,000 kids. And
wow.
It closed about 3 or 4 years ago. Very disappointing that they closed my high school, which had a great tradition. Great sports program. Yeah, I grew up in Huntsville. I didn't grow up. I feel like I've been here. I feel like this is my high school, but
well, it is. It's home for you now.
Yeah.
What all did you play there? I know you wrestled there.
I wrestled and played football. They cut me from the basketball team, which broke my heart. made me wrestle, and but I just played 2 sports. Yeah.
2 sports. Well, I didn't realize you played football there. I know you still shoot a lot around here in the gym. I see you out there, and you still fill up that hoop pretty good there.
Well, for an old guy, yes.
I tell you what. And obviously, everybody knows you as our former wrestling coach and still here as the AD, and you're not involved directly in wrestling anymore. You're in every wrestling Hall of Fame that is known to man that I know of.
I don't know about that, Gary.
Well, you're in a lot of them.
I know where I am on the wrestling ladder. I've wrestled for 30 years. I mean, I was lucky. I had a pretty good career, had great coaches and great teammates that made me a lot better than I should have been.
Well, that's what good coaching is about, you know,
yeah.
to make you better. And when you came here, I know before you came here, we're going to back up here in a minute because I know you coached in Georgia a little bit.
I was at LFO in Catoosa County. That was my first job. Taught science because they didn't have a PE job. And back then you could do that, and then coached freshman football with Junior Tucker, who was at Charleston in Walker Valley.
Yeah.
And then, of course, was head wrestling coach.
Where did you go to college at?
I went to UTC. It was the best 6 years of my life, Gary.
Best 6 years of your life. I understand that completely. Well, let me ask you this. Now, you come to Bradley, and we had 2 great guys, Jerry Frazier and Chief Robertson, who were late, Chief passed away. Jerry's still with us on the school board. And they'll be the first to tell you, we didn't know anything about wrestling. We had a program there, and we was trying to assemble it, get together, and we drove the bus. That's what Jerry says. I drove the bus, taking them to these matches. But when you came in here, we were not a good wrestling program. Let's just be honest about it. But what was your biggest challenge? How do you take it and like Phoenix rise from the ashes, I guess, to build a program?
Let me just tell you this, and I didn't know this till after I'd gotten here. The reason they called me, Louis Alford and David Kaywood called me at LFO, and they said they wanted to get serious about wrestling. Well, I already had a job at Red Bank and was headed to Red Bank, but we had a guy, Jeff White, who went to Truett and ended up going to Cleveland, and he was a really good football player. And they didn't want any more football wrestlers going to Cleveland.
So that's what it was all about.
It really, I'm not sure, I think it was football motivated that I got here. So that's kind of funny. I told Louis Alford he didn't come to a match the whole time I was coach here, and his grandson was 4-time state champion. He didn't miss a match. So,
right.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Well, when I got here, we weren't very good, and we didn't have... we just didn't think we were very good. We didn't have a kids club program. I'm getting kids in the 9th grade that don't know what they're doing. So we tried to change all that, and it takes time. I have a lot of respect for Jerry Frazier and what he tries to do and everything he does. So I don't want to say that, we were just pitiful, but we weren't very good.
Well, and Jerry will be the first to tell you that.
And some of Jerry's guys were gone. I wish I had Alan Morris when he was here at 98. And we just had to get them to buy into believing that it was important and that they were good. And you know, we got some really good kids in here, and made me look like I knew what I was doing there for a while.
Well, our very first state champion was in 1984, I believe.
1984, Steve Logsdon. We had Steve Logsdon and Kevin Jones. Kevin got beat in the finals, and Steve won. You know, Steve, I told Steve, I said, you get your degree and I'll be your assistant, and that's what he did, and that's what I did. So my daughters were coming up, and I wanted to watch basketball, and I knew I couldn't be the head coach like I wanted to. So Steve took over and took it where it should have been going in the first place. So.
Well, he did a great job, won some state titles, had some great players, and he was followed by Chad Lax, now Ben Smith, who's won 2 state titles.
Chad won, I believe Chad won 2 or 1. I know he won a couple.
They've all won state titles.
Yeah.
We have won a ton.
26.
26. That's team championships. That doesn't count individuals, does it? Or?
It's the traditional, in wrestling you have the traditional and you have the duels. You can win. Starting in 1993, you could win 2 state championships in wrestling, which is kind of different in most sports. But yeah, we have, I don't know, 26. I think it's 14 and 12.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Do you have any idea how many individual state titles we've won?
Steve could tell you. I can tell you how many I have. But I think there's been quite a few. I mean,
seems like it's in the 40s.
They've had as many as 6, and I believe it was 6 in 1 year, 5 in 1 year. That's pretty dominant. So.
Well, if you ever come into Jim Smead Arena, you can look up in the rafters there and see all those individuals listed by weight class, because that's how wrestling is done. And let me ask you this: while we're talking about that wrestling too, we're going to skip on some other sports here. The future of wrestling. I've talked to Ben Smith just the other day. He says female wrestling is coming to the high school level. He says you can book it. He says, as sure as I'm standing here living and breathing, it's going to come. He says it's the fastest growing sport in the NCAA nationwide. Now, do you agree with that? Do you think girl wrestling is coming?
I don't know enough to talk about women's wrestling.
Yeah.
I know I'm scared of it. You know, I guess the wrestling coach, most of the time in Tennessee, the wrestling coach is also the girls' coach too. Yeah. So, I'm glad that the girls have a championship and they're no longer wrestling the guys. That's what I'm glad about. That they're wrestling girls. It's kind of hard for you to win when you wrestle a girl. You know, you're not. If you beat her, you're not a good guy. If she scores on you, you're done. So I'm glad they're separating them. I don't know enough about girls and where they're going. You know.
Well, it looks to be maybe the future of wrestling. Who knows around here? And where do we rank? Well, we talked about where we rank the state titles. As the AD here at Bradley, you talked about you have 14 sports now and 40-something coaches that are on staff, that are paid coaches.
We got about 60-something coaches, but 40 that are on faculty. And you know, I can't remember, maybe 10 or 12 years ago, the state office said we can use non-faculty, people that aren't on the faculty. We were all worried about that, but I think it's worked out good, and in some cases it's been a blessing that you don't have a guy on campus that knows that sport. So it's been really good, surprisingly to me, that it's worked out as well as it has.
Yeah. Well, as the AD, what is your biggest challenge here? I mean, I know football Fridays, if we got a home game on Friday, somebody should try to follow you around. It's almost impossible to keep up with you on Friday on football.
I love away games, Gary.
I know you do.
I love going and eating and walking up to the stadium because, you know, Friday night's rough. It's all day. And, well, the challenges of being an AD, it's all about facilities. It's about keeping guys working together. We're lucky we have 14 head coaches, and for the most part, we all work together. Even as big as we are at 17, 40, or 50, we've got to share athletes. So I'm thankful that we are where we are right now with our coaches that kind of work together and don't say this is my kid and he can't do this. And we've seen that in my 41 years. I've seen a lot of that, and so I would hope that we would share athletes here between sports.
You said you've been here 41 years. You're the longest tenured person on campus now.
There's nobody here. When I came here in '79, there's not a custodian, a secretary, nobody. That really makes me feel bad.
Makes you feel old, doesn't it?
That too, yeah. But there's nobody here. You know who's number 2? This is even more depressing.
No.
Steve Logsdon is number 2. He's my first state champ. I remember when he was an 8th grader, I had him in science at Bradley Junior. So Make me feel old.
Oh man. Okay, let's play What If. What if you were able to change the TSSAA? Is anything that you would like to change that we're doing today that you don't like, or something you wish we were doing or not doing?
You know, everybody doesn't like the state office because they're the referee of
The
the
bad
high school
guys.
athletics. They're the bad guy that keep us all in line. There's a good group of guys over there. I know almost all. I know all of the executive directors, but we try to change things. We've got a regional meeting. I'm gonna make a proposal that with boarding students and stuff like that. So if you don't like a rule, you can take it to the regional meeting and they'll just vote on it. I mean, it's our association. It's not the office up there. It's ours. So, but you would be surprised at the Legislative Council and the Board of Control. All these people complain, but when you go to those meetings, which decide everything about the office and stuff, there's not that many people there. Everybody
Really?
just likes to complain. They don't want. They don't want to do the process. They just want to complain. But that's a very tough job that they have, trying to control. In this state, there's about 400 something schools, and you know, some of them don't go by the rules.
Well, that's true. And we have two bodies there at TSSAA. The Legislative Council defines or determines the policy.
They make the rules. They make the bylaws, and then other things too. But the Board of Control kind of enforces that. So.
Yeah. So we
Yeah,
got that.
it's we've added private school people to both the Legislative Council and the Board of Control, so everybody's represented. They felt like they weren't represented. You know, we've just completely split public-private in this state. Mm-hmm. So
I think that's a good rule there too. Everybody in the public sector likes it anyway because you know how we feel about private schools.
The Baylor School has 157 state championships, and that's like way ahead of everybody, even the other private. So yeah, there's a little bit of difference there.
Well, looking ahead, right now, and one of the things that I hear about all the time is we have too many classifications in football. Do you see that changing at all? We'll reclassify based on student population after next school year.
Yeah, if it goes up 20% or you go down 20%, and usually there's not a handful of schools that do that, believe it or not. So, yeah, it'll change. But I don't, you know, classification's always big, and everybody thinks there's too many. But one of the things you got to look at is when you put people together, how far apart it is.
Right.
What is it on same time zone? I mean, it's not as easy as everybody thinks it is just to change the classifications. You know,
Here against one of those things everybody likes to complain about, I guess, you know.
well,
as
yeah,
you say.
usually we complain about because we're not winning them. That's all.
Yeah, for winning, everything's fine. You know,
I've not heard.
We're tickling down
Neville's
with
not
everything.
complained about classifications. They're actually up. They move up a classification. That's how much they care about classifications. They're moving up. So, yeah, it's. I don't know. That's a lot of state championships in football, but the people that win them, I think they're tickled to death.
I tend to agree with you there. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Well, on the TSSAA, who are local representatives on the Board of Control?
Steve Henry from Soddy Daisy is the Board of Control member. He just became the Board of Control member. And then Greg Guerin was our Legislative Council member, but now Greg is not with us. Greg retired, so we're going to have an opening in November. We'll pick a new Legislative Council member. I'm going to try to see if we can help get Patrick on there. I think Patrick Spangler is very interested in, you know, working in athletics. So it's really good to meet all those guys, and they're all principals or assistant principals or superintendents in some cases. So he says he wants to do that, so we'll see if we can get him on there. We're in the 3rd district, and that's everybody here in Chattanooga, Sequatchie County, Meigs County. It is not McMinn, believe it or not. You would think McMinn would be with us, but they're not. They're in the Knoxville district. So,
wow,
yeah.
That might make a whole lot of sense. And now somebody like me, well, I want to be on that council, but I'm not.
You have to be an administrator,
right?
Yeah, to be on the council. They just now opened it up to athletic directors that are certified. That's a brand new rule. You didn't used to let athletic directors be on there. You had to be a principal, assistant principal, director of schools, superintendent, something like that.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here for BCHS.TV. Thank you so much, Coach, for being with us today. You've heard from Turner Jackson, our Bradley Central AD. How many years have you been AD?
I think it's around 15. I'm not sure. I was assistant AD for a while, and then I became AD. So I think I started in '01 as assistant AD when Lindsay came up here, and I don't know how long I was assistant AD, Gary. So
Do you have an assistant now?
I've got helpers. I don't have an official assistant. I got a lot of help. People try to help me, but I appreciate you doing these interviews and letting people see our athletic department and our coaches.
Well,
and all
something
that's pretty neat. I mean,
something we need to put out there, and this will be on BCHS TV. It's on YouTube and Facebook as well under the BCHS Bear Network, so you can see all these interviews there and meet our coaches and just get an idea of some of the things that happen at Bradley and the people in charge of making them happen. And I know I've seen you on Fridays, and people just think, oh, he just goes out there on Friday night and turns on the lights. Well, you got to get security, you got to get the lights on the timer, you got to get referees, you got to get everything else lined up and tickets distributed to wherever or whatever if it's a home game. And there's a lot of work starting from daylight to way, way after dark.
And that's if everything goes all right.
Yeah, if the lights don't go out in the middle of the game.
Or, or somebody has a fight, or we got trouble in the stands. So there's all, but it's, the busiest time, believe it or not. We have 6 sports in the fall, we have 3 in the winter, and we have 5 in the spring. And I would have never have guessed that the winter sports, by far, are the busiest.
Really?
Oh, it's every night. I mean, we have a good wrestling program and basketball program, so we're playing all the time. We might take Wednesday off, to me, my busiest time is when those 3 sports are in. The wrestling and basketball, because we have so many teams, and it's every night. There's no break.
Well, I know it's a challenge to you, but I know you love it too.
I do. I've been here 41 years, so I must love it.
Well, thanks again, Coach, for joining us here on BCH TV. I'm your host, Gary Ownbey, and for now we'll say so long, God bless, and go Bears.